scandalous, but she's also fabulous.
You are watching and freaking viewing Scandalous.
They've Got Your Six came out with F8, Five Finger Death Punch's 8th studio album. And with New Blood, the second coming of Five Finger Death Punch is here. Welcome to the podcast, drum genius, teacher, prog god, well on his way to legendary status, Charlie Engen, the new drummer for Five Finger Death Punch. How are you?
Thanks.
Yeah, you're a lot of things. There's like a lot to elaborate on there. We could like go on, adjectives and things like
I'll
that.
take that. That was a good one.
Yeah. So, Charlie, how about that game yesterday? I'm a cheesehead, and us Packers beat you guys 43-34 yesterday. So, it was fried pickles, wings, beer, and we beat you guys.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest showing.
It was
the
like
old
a
Vikes.
preseason game, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of like how they were playing. They weren't going very hard with it at all.
Felt weird. It's probably the energy from the audience missing. I would assume for both teams. I would think all teams are going to have to get used to it. But I thought the Vikes looked terrible overall. They, everybody scored so many points. It was just kind of a shootout by the end. But our secondary was weak for sure, and Rogers kind of picked us apart, and that's how it ended.
I know. I loved it when we started scoring and like Roger's face picked up a little bit. He started smirking and smiling a little bit more, like getting that confidence going. I was like, hey, Rogers, there you go. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. But it was weird being like at a sports bar too, because no one could really walk around and like we had people coming to us, but we couldn't get up. We couldn't be rowdy.
Yeah, it takes away
Different.
some of the the fun rivalry of it all.
Yeah, like the R of it. So a little bit off. Maybe they were a little bit off yesterday. But like the song, I'm not off today, but I have been a lot over the past several months. How have you been handling these times? Any hobbies, goals, aspirations that COVID has brought forth for you?
Yeah, I've been good. Honestly, taking a lot of time to just do like housework and stuff, which is what I've kind of been doing nonstop, just in between,
Mm-hmm.
lessons and drumming and stuff. But yeah, I do like a lot of outdoor stuff, like camping and fishing of sorts. So I've been doing a good amount of that and getting the house ready, and that's about it. Honestly, I haven't even played that much drums, to be honest. It kind of comes in waves, and then I'll play for a while and go. But now it's been picking back up. So yeah, just taking the time to do things I can't do when I'm on the road, I suppose.
This is going to be like the only chance in your lifetime where you can like chill out a little bit. You don't have to play for hours and hours a day, every single day. You can do housework. You can be outside for like long periods of time. So it's like a nice break, right?
Yeah, I've been grinding pretty hard for the last,
Ever.
I don't even know how many years. So it's good to like be able to take a step back to it in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And you're up in Minnesota. A lot of the guys are in Vegas. So what is it like in Minnesota? Describe it up there. I'm in Texas. How is it in Minnesota up there for someone who's never been to Minnesota?
Oh, you've been here. Yeah, in general, it's a beautiful state. It's kind of got to mix everything at different parts of the state, different sections of it.
Mhm.
A lot of good restaurants in the cities, kind of like where I live. And then I spend a lot of my time up north, like central Minnesota, super woodsy. I should say north central, really. But then, yeah, you get up towards the border, and tons of lakes and that whole outdoors type environment. So yeah, I do a lot of that. I kind of grew up like in both sides.
Mhm.
My dad lives up north, and then I grew up in the city. So yeah, it's a beautiful state. It's got a lot to offer outdoors wise. The winter sucks as everybody thinks it does. But there's some benefits to the winter as well. You enjoy those other seasons a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, like you actually have seasons. Us in Texas, like we don't really get seasons. It's like hot as hell, cold as hell, no seasons. So it's kind of nice up there.
Yeah, we get aggressive season changes. So.
Aggressive, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So on the track Full Circle, I think it's kind of ironic and I think it's kind of funny. The lyrics, I know I'm never going to change the world. I'm not sure that I could, even if I tried. I don't think these times are what that song is talking about. I think that's like, a lot of work on the inside. But I feel like that's changed a little. Protests and marches, police reform, the NFL, basketball, baseball, everything has changed. Everything's very political and lots of things are changing. Um, do you feel like we're in really cool times where it's like you can make more of a difference now than you've been able to in the past?
I've definitely been trying to look at it that way the last few weeks, I'd say. I feel like I've been more jaded than non-jaded towards the whole thing because I feel like it's taken a turn for disaster more than it's taking a turn for like positive reform. But that's a deep topic, not even worth digging into. But yeah, I do think that. I was thinking that actually the other day in depth in my head, where yeah, there might be some time now to see the cream rise to the top in a little different way, where
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be so watered down in every facet of the world where everything's just great and you can just kind of float through life doing this or that or the other thing and having this attitude that's kind of like a fake perception of reality when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like how we all present ourselves on social media and that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like there's some clarity coming through in ways. I just hope that it you know turns around a little bit in as a whole, I guess, to not get too in details with everything.
For sure. Yeah, I love to be happy. I love to be positive. We hope things turn around, but it does feel like different days where every day, you kind of go through life, and I kind of feel like this sometimes where I go through my days and I'm like, okay, every day is monotonous, like was it all for kind of thing. And it's like, damn, it kind of gives your days purpose when you know that like you really are in charge of your life. These are your choices, your decisions, and it feels really cool now that you can kind of make more of a difference now than you ever have been able to before. So I like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's definitely like a thing where now it isn't as monotonous as normal, especially like media, social media, the whole like,
What we're doing
yeah,
now.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. We can say that for sure.
Yeah, we don't know what it's gonna look like, but it's gonna be good.
Not on fire. I think I'm down at this point.
Yeah, nothing on fire, right? I mean, it's just horrible to like think that it started with a gender reveal. Fuck.
I
Or
was being more with fire, but yeah, the fires out in Cali and in Oregon now, for that matter, are pretty bad. I was just out in LA, and it was even down south where I was. The sun couldn't make it through the smoke. So
that's crazy. Yeah, I reached out to like my little Headbangers Con family yesterday in Portland. And I was like, "Hey, is everyone alive? Is everyone doing okay out there?" They're putting another con together in the middle of all this, and they just don't know if they're gonna have to evacuate or not or anything like that. It's really scary.
for sure.
And so I remember talking to you a little bit about the protests when they all started in Minneapolis, and you had opinions about it. I really liked your opinions about it. I won't say what they were, but it kind of changed my perspective on it because I was real like solid on the way I felt. You told me how you felt, and I didn't think about it that way at all. But just talking about the rebuilding of it all, we saw a lot on social media where there was a lot of negativity, but there were a lot of positives as well that communities were banding together and cleaning up the next day. So, what's the rebuilding process been like? Because the city took a huge hit, but you saw a lot of beauty and people coming together and cleaning up the city afterwards. So, what's it look like right now in Minneapolis?
Um, areas that got destroyed, they're still pretty rough overall in terms of like business reopenings and stuff like that. But honestly, I haven't been down there now in a while. I steer
Mm-hmm.
clear of that area.
Good
There's
for
it's
you. Good for you. Stay out of it, right?
areas, and it has really nothing to do with like feeling safe or anything like that. I mean, my
Yeah.
neighborhood's dangerous as any in the state, but it's yeah, it was nice to see kind of really. I think the people came together well. The
Mm-hmm.
government is a whole nother topic of discussion that I feel very strongly about. I won't
Mm-hmm.
even get into the details of
Well,
it, but
Five Finger Death Punch does it for you. They go in on the government, all the time and about veterans and the wars and things like that. So you don't even have to say anything. Five Finger Death Punch does it for us.
we're good about. I feel like we're good though about like keeping it. It's not super specific in how things are said or anything. It leaves things up for interpretation, which I think is great because that's super important right now. Is everybody's too divided and too standing on their rock and they're willing to die on that rock for no reason other than right. So
Mm-hmm.
kind of that, it's an issue. But yeah, with the Minnesota stuff, I just think our governor and our mayor, well, I should say the governor of Minneapolis, and then the mayor, uh, governor of the state, and the mayor of Minneapolis, they're the ones who caused this, and I don't see them
Mm-hmm.
stepping up to the plate.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to let people destroy your city, you don't turn around and you ask, for federal funding to fix it, as if anybody else across this country had anything. It's a super deep topic, so yeah, like you
Yeah.
talked, there's so many roads that lead to one or lead to 100, but I think overall it's good here. Like the people have definitely chilled out a little bit in terms of like yeah, like active, not even protesting or anything like that. I don't, obviously agree with protesting. It should be done. But yeah, you don't see people taking advantage of the protesting as much as you did before.
Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing, talking separately about that type of government, but the one thing that Five Finger Death Punch always does stand up for, and it's always about the veterans, and it's always about the taking care of the individual and taking care of like, I feel like government really takes the big picture into consideration and not the individual. And Five Finger Death Punch is always there for the veteran, for the soldier, for the people like laying down their lives. So, for the boots on the ground, you guys are always like first and foremost for that. So that is cool.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, a good way to put it too. It's about the smaller picture and the boots on the ground and whatever you know way you want to view that. Not even just soldiers, but just first responders across the board. They get ignored and lumped as a whole sometimes, and it just becomes this like fake group that you don't know about or you care about because they're doing what they're supposed to do type attitude. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously now it's become a whole next level of conglomerate. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it's like a big giant cesspool of arguments, but they're still there doing their thing, and to ignore that is a bizarre thing. And then obviously now it's taking a horrific turn when it comes to how they're getting treated in a public perception sort of way.
Yeah.
Some deserve, some not, in my opinion, but that's irrelevant.
Yeah. It's irrelevant. We won't talk about it, but not really irrelevant.
My opinion isn't.
No, you're right. Not at all. Not at all. Well, kind of talking about like one other thing about Minnesota, I seriously considered going to McNally Smith School of Music myself. And I loved listening to Doc's podcast when you were on there, and I was like, wow, you went there. I love that you got your master's from that school. Tell us about your educational experience at McNally Smith and the kind of music that you got into and the cool classes. I mean, I remember there was one, it was like theory of Beatles or something like that. They had classes like that. It was like, theory of like Sergeant Pepper or something like that. Like, what were some of the cool things you got to study there?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it was a great experience as a musician. I loved it. Got to do a ton of jamming of like crazy. I'm like a prog metal guy, like that's what I was into growing up. So to get to play like, you name it, Dream Theater ensembles where we do an hour and a half of Dream Theater live, and all those crazy bands, Porcupine Tree, Opeth, Meshuggah, Between the Buried and Me, Protest the Hero, anything kind of fun and jamming. We did it endlessly while I was there, and like in ensemble wise. And so yeah, then there's those classes like you're talking about where, essentially like the Beatles theory one or something is really what you're doing is just breaking down, the theory behind all the tunes and whatnot. But I had a lot of fun with all the goofy classes, if you want to call them that, like the specific ones. I enjoyed the classical ones, although they were brutally hard. But I got into theory a lot when I was there, and I got really good at it mentally. So like I couldn't just sit down and start like whipping out crazy stuff on a guitar, even though I'm like a decent guitar player when I was playing. I knew what I was doing, but I couldn't just like improvise across, like, all right, I'm gonna do this to this to this progression wise. But
Mm-hmm.
I got good at piano, so that helped me, and I got good theoretically. It's not like I was sitting reading all day, but I had a lot of fun, and I grew a lot as a musician, no doubt. Um, there from 25 to 30, so I was already a good player when I went there, but yeah, like you take on the next level of professionalism in your playing and your approach when you are just kind of, you know.
So that's interesting that you learned piano while you were there. Did that change the way that you went about drumming? Because kind of mixing those two together, if you like learn piano, you know drumming, does that change your drumming at all and the way you think about and compose music?
Yeah, for sure. And by default, it helps you like have better ears and just be better at listening to what somebody's doing and what they want to hear when they're doing their thing versus as a drummer, it's easy to get stuck in like the driving force of it all and you think very like forward thinker and
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this because this is the tempo and it's the groove, but then I want to do this because it sounds fun right here. Well, it does sound fun right there for you, but sometimes it doesn't always sound fun there for others.
Yeah.
Uh, and especially coming with from a prog, like crazy techie,
Yeah.
whatever fusion, even more or less, you get in the habit of being able to do whatever you want whenever you want to if it links up with somebody, which
Yeah.
is still super cool to me. My style overall is still gonna follow like a guitar, like the lead guitar even during solos, but whatever rhythm guitars and all the stabs and stuff. I'll
Mm-hmm.
pick those up and you'll hear it. My right hand comping this or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, the more keyboard and stuff I played and just we had to sing. We had to keyboard, guitar, whatever you wanted, like bass. You could choose like non-specific whatever you call it, like majors. But yeah, it helped me a lot in really every way possible as a musician because you also meet so many different personalities who are like your peers essentially, and you're kind of all growing at the same time together into the industry and learning this and that about it. And everybody's course is obviously like, widely different, but
Mm-hmm.
course meaning like life course through the music industry. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's funny because now I look back and a lot of the stuff I was learning then just goes right through your head because you can't intake all that information. But there's a lot of things now I look back on and I'm like, oh, I'm glad I learned that then and can put it to use now.
Yeah. Well, and being like new in the band and you have one album underneath your belt, what was kind of the recording process, like taking everything you learned from that other instrument, working with the guys? Because I've heard you say that they talk to you and they make you a part of the process now. So, like, what was the recording process for you guys like and the collaboration process with you being new in the band? But I've also heard from another interview that they like really do include you in ideas and like create music with you instead of just saying here play this, like do this, play this.
Yeah, like by default, there's a little of that on this time because when I came into the band, F8 was already getting like it was getting written in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jason was doing a lot of his stuff, and I would on that first tour we would just jam on random ideas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it became like we finished that first tour I ever did, and then when it came to like actual writing time, I would go down with Zoltan and we'd jam around for just we'd just jam all day,
Yeah.
and then take ideas and kind of conform them and whatever, and then so yeah, I was a part of a handful of the songs, I guess, but more like riffs, like sections of music,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, because then obviously me being in Minnesota, it made it a little trickier. But yeah, I'd go down as much as I could, and then yeah, then that was that, and then they get turned more into songs in the studio, and less just sections, and then Ivan does his thing on his own for the most part, and him and Churko go to work there. So yeah,
Cool.
Kevin's just a big part of the process as well. So it's I just told them I'm here in whatever facet you need me. I'm a flight away, so it
Uh-huh.
worked out well. I'm really excited for the next one, whenever that may be, just because now it'll be like much more inclusive because
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, it's good though. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing it too. It's fun to hear a lot of the sections that like I jammed with Zoltan on, like a little electronic kit. It's fun to hear it now in its full song version, on the record still for me, just as it is every other album I've ever done. But it's always cool when you're on the radio and stuff because I've never had that before with all the proggy stuff I was doing.
Yeah, for sure. You get to hear yourself on the radio. That's really cool. So being like such a prog guy, so technical, I know you love prog metal bands. What bands do you miss the most, and who do you want to see first?
That's pretty easy, I'd say, just because they were on the ones on the list like that I was going to go to, and then they got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
I always go Jira. I love those guys, both as people and their music. Haken, that show, I was so disappointed. It was Haken, Devin Townsend, and the Contortionist,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Oh,
love
I
all
love
love
the
all those.
Contortionist.
Yeah, I love all those bands, and
Yeah.
I know members from each one, and they're like friends of mine too. So it's always fun when you can see your friends jam. And I lost out on that one because of this, but that would be another one. Devin is always a favorite of mine. Leprous, one of my favorites. Um, yeah, I've been into those types of bands lately. Kind of the more like
Mm-hmm.
artsy, jammy, sort of like almost. I
Outer
don't know what
Body
you would.
Experience is kind of how I would describe the Contortionist, a lot of their stuff. I
Yeah,
don't
they're ethereal. Yeah.
I haven't thought about the Contortionist in a really long time, but I don't even know the name of that song. But you know the song I'm talking about, where it just lifts you out of your body. You know which song I'm talking about?
Probably Clairvoyant, probably.
Which one?
Clairvoyant, is it a newer one?
Yeah, Clairvoyant.
Yeah, it's a good tune. I think that's the name of the album, maybe, but it's the
It
name of the
is.
song, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember
great.
hearing it, and they were playing in the city I was in like 2 days later, and I freaked out, tried to get a hold of their PR people so I could do an interview with them, and it didn't end up working out. But I was like, damn it, I wanted an interview with them so bad because of that one song. I
Yeah,
was
it's a good song.
beautiful out of body experience, just
Yeah.
lift
Tool,
you
that's
up.
another one too I always want to see live when I can. I missed out on them because of this, so Tool's always on the list for me.
I don't like Tool. It's
Really
like
funny.
it's one of those ones that like everyone loves them. So I'm like, God, why do I have to love them if everyone loves them? It's like that kind of thing for me. I'm like, yeah, everyone loves them. I get it. I got it. Oh my God.
Yeah,
I know it's a thing. Yes, I know.
I just think it's one of those random rare bands that can touch people on like an extra level where they become overly obsessed because it's
Mm-hmm.
like it opened up some part of their brain and like their view of music or whatever it could be that like now forever it will be that band that like brought them to the next level of thinking about music or drumming or however they got affected by the band, you know. So it's one
Yeah.
of those ones that some people get overzealous about just because to them it was like the revolution that their brain needed to kind of kick down the door to a next level of thinking about tunes or how they're affected by tunes or whatever. So I know what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, but yeah, there's still I could listen to every tune. I've listened to all their records obviously thousands of times at this point in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. 'Cause I grew up playing like Dream Theater, Rush, Tool. You know, like I would learn everything note for note. I was like OCD about learning the drum parts perfectly, how the drummer played them, because
Mm-hmm.
I was like, did it for a reason if it's their part, you know. So yeah, I just got a deep appreciation for Danny doing that, just because his style is so. It's not like he's reinventing any wheels, but the way he does it with such like passion and style, and it's coming from within type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Same with like Mario from Gojira. It's the same effect. It's not like he's doing something I can't do or something. It's just he's doing it in such a way that came from the heart, and it's part of a bigger piece of the tune that it's always been like he's one of my favorites. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I love that. With bands that have so many albums, and you're in one of those bands now, I always go like, "Oh my God, this album is so good. How did they do it again?" I always have that feeling like they have so much incredible music. How did they do it again? How did they come out with another album? Do you feel that way about those musicians that you just mentioned? Because I always feel that way. I'm like, oh my God, Seven Dust, Five Finger Death Punch, like bands like that. Every fucking album, like Papa Roach, every fucking album is so good. Like, how do they do it every single time?
Yeah, I think that a lot myself, and I see that from multiple like angles too, because it's weird because you're also biased because you love them, so they can almost do no wrong. But other times it's the
Mm-hmm.
opposite, and people get super like critical, and they're ready for you to make a mistake, and they're almost like seeking out the mistakes. Like
Yeah.
it's always a weird balance. But for me personally, yeah, I look at that all the time just because it's just another book on the shelf. You don't have to read it. You know, people
Mm-hmm.
take stuff so personally when they don't
Yeah.
like an album if a band takes a turn. But you
Yeah.
know, like that's Opeth for me though. I don't care for anything past Watershed really at all. Like specific songs I do,
Mm-hmm.
but as a catalog, their first half or whatever, I don't even know if it's a half, but their first 6, 7 albums are like one of my favorite bands of all time. And then the new stuff, I could probably make an 8-song album that I would love out of the last 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting like catch.
Dichotomy.
Yeah. So yeah, but I think that all the time. It's every time I sit down at the drums and I have a bad day and like my creativity feels stunted, it's a good slap in the face that it's a craft. It doesn't just magically appear before you. So to do it time after time, that's the difficult part.
And you surprise yourself every single time. And every single
Yeah,
time it still comes back. It's like that magic. And they're like, oh, that's why I love it. It's so good. Yes.
I need to have more of that attitude. I do that with bands that I love, but for my own personal playing, I'm so self-critical and like
Mm-hmm.
once I do it, it's like, yeah, I should have done that the first time and like or what like first time meaning, why did it take me an hour to perfect it?
Yeah.
But it's more of a frustration than it is anything for me, but that's just because of my approach to it and my mental like I view it maybe differently than others would perceive it. Once they listen to the drum groove, they'd be like, oh, that's sweet. But in my head, I'm like, I could do this. I could do, you're always crafting, and that's the curse of the artist in me. But yeah, that's the fun. That's what makes it fun. Like if I didn't get pissed at it, why would I do it?
Exactly. Well, and I really have that feeling about you. I was thinking about it. I was like writing questions in the bathtub last night. I was like, this is the first drummer I think I've interviewed, especially on the podcast, maybe ever. So, yeah, you might be like the only drummer I've ever interviewed. I was thinking about it. You might be, I can't think of another one. And especially you, like, I feel like you approach music so differently because you are so technical. I know why I love music, but do you love music because of the technicality or is it all about feeling for you? I was kind of wondering that about you because, I was listening to Five Fingers music and it's different when you're interviewing a drummer. You listen to the drum tracks and you like it's all music, but then you single out an instrument and you hear it differently. So do you judge music and enjoy music differently because of that?
I would say when I was growing up, I definitely enjoyed it because it was technical mixed with like cool. Like the technicality, if it sounded good, was awesome to me. Like I wasn't a big fan of like much jazz swing that era, even though there's like a technicality behind it, but the sound and the whatever didn't really catch me. But I loved fusion stuff, as busy and crazy as that stuff can be, like Mahavishnu Orchestra, and then like even like the cheesy stuff because the drumming's so good, like any of the Dave Weckl, like old Chambers, all those like kind of goofy drum albums, if you will, from like late 80s, 90s mainly, like mid 90s, early 90s. But for me now, definitely has nothing to do with the technicality, unless the tune's so cool with the technicality mixed in that it might bring it up a notch for me. But I'm definitely more of a song guy the last 5 years of my life. But I still listen to a lot of like techier metal, but it doesn't sound that techy to me, It's more like I kind of blend in. But like I definitely don't sit down and learn other people's music anymore and be like, oh, listen how like intricate that groove was. I wanna learn that. Like I have no desire to sit down and learn anybody else's stuff for, I think, if anything, a hindrance, because to learn another guy's like approach is always good because it's tough, especially when you've been doing your own thing for so long. It's very easy to get repetitive. So like I'll hear the repetition in my playing and it drives me crazy. And I'm like, maybe I should go jam to some old whatever, soil work or Opeth, just to switch it up,
Yeah, for sure. Well, and right at the end, exactly what you said, and kind of like brings everything full circle because, I was saying, oh my God, how do all these bands like come up with different things? Five Fingers sound is so in your face and so heavy and so like, knuckle, knuckle to your chin, but it is all different. So that's kind of exactly what you said. Like, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it different? And you guys keep doing it. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think with Death Punch, it's a different take in terms of like, it's a sound in itself. So like to really mess with that too much could get weird, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely elements getting thrown in now on F8 that had been missing for a while, and there's various reasons to that. And that's not for better or for worse or anything. But we definitely, with this one, took a little more liberty as far as, especially section-wise. Like, you'll hear some certain sections where you're like, that doesn't even sound like Death Punch to me right now. So, you know, with
Yeah.
Death Punch, you can't stray too far from the path because people, you know, if I'm going to put in Britney Spears, I better hear Britney Spears and not Meshuggah type effect. You know,
Yeah.
like you can't like go too crazy if you're like a radio driven band in terms of like not meaning we write for the radio, but you know your songs are getting played on the radio,
Yeah.
and I think you can tell though the elements that got mixed in with some of these tunes versus a lot of the last singles. Um,
Well, especially a little bit off.
yeah,
So
yeah.
like my girlfriends, they're not metal people. They don't understand it. We went camping this weekend and I got drunk enough that I started playing metal. I would typically never do that. They don't understand it. It's not for them. It's not their thing, but
Mhm.
like they were so drunk they didn't bitch about it. But I played a little bit off for my friends at the beginning of all of this, and they're like, "Oh, I really love that band. Who is that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, Five Finger Death Punch. It's not for you." Like it's not for you. Don't worry about it. But like they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I love that song. Who is that?" And I'm like, "Honey, it's not for you." But yes, that's who it is. But a little bit off. That's a huge hit, and it's completely different. There's huge elements to that, and it's super successful, even though it has like a little bit of like the wrong side of heaven, that
yeah.
rawness to it.
It's the softness is there. You like
Yeah.
the lighthearted feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole vibe of it is definitely, you know, new for Death Punch overall, I'd say. Where
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I mean it might end up being the most successful single that we've had, I would think, based on the numbers. I don't know the numbers as far
Oh,
as like
great. That's exciting to hear. That's
I don't
cool.
I don't know like streams or I don't even know how they rate that stuff anymore, to be honest with you,
Good
because it's
for
all
you. You have people for that.
uh,
You don't need to like ruin your life with that. That sounds horrible.
oh, and I could care
Yeah.
less anyways. But
Yeah.
I know it's been number one on the rock charts for like 12 weeks now, which I think is as long as any song I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in recent history for any band. So I'd imagine it's got to be up there for us.
Well, it's a song of the times. It's like perfectly epitomizes how we're all feeling right now. So
Funny enough, yeah, it came out at the right time unknowingly, you know.
it did. It really
That's why
did.
I wasn't even pissed I wasn't in the video because it's so perfect for Ivan to be in a desolate Las Vegas. Like, you know, it couldn't have been better having it like that
Mm-hmm.
as the, you know, what the portrayal of the song, even though, you know, it didn't start off with that because it was written long before COVID. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yep. Exactly. Especially like Fire from the Gods. Do you know their music at all?
Yeah, I've toured with them. They're friends of mine.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you know their music. So all their music, and I had AJ on the podcast.
Yeah,
Holy shit. All their music, every single song off their last album.
yeah,
Whoa. Like Songs for the Times. Hello. Whoa.
yep.
It's crazy. Um, so let's kind of like let's hear the story about how you got in the band. I actually heard rumors that it was happening that Five Finger was looking for a new drummer, but they'd been together for so long, it was really hard for me to imagine that there would be a new member in the band. And then it happened. You
Hmm.
transitioned in, and it was really seamless. And it sounded like no one was talking shit. Everyone was happy. It was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It seemed
Thank
really
God for that.
seamless. Tell
Yeah,
us
it
like the
was.
story about all of it.
Oh yeah, I'll give you the like summary that isn't horrifically long, but long story
Mm-hmm.
shorter is me and Jeremy were friends like through the internet. Just he was like a fan of my drumming or whatever, so we just became drum buddies and would talk, you know, about random stuff. And yeah, he hit me up once, and it seemed a little bit different at the time too. Of like he was almost like digging. I think it was like asking me questions about like what I wanted to do in the future and stuff. And this is a long time before, a long time meaning probably a year or something, a
Mm-hmm.
half a year before. But so yeah, Jeremy and I talked about it, and he's like, you know, for sure, man, you need to be on the big stage, you know, blah blah blah. So I was like, yeah, that anytime, man, you hear of any gig coming around, you let me, you know. So
Yeah.
it's funny because then it ended up being his gig, um, but no, yeah, we were good buddies as far as drums go. We didn't know each other at all, but we talked and had open communication. And then Jeremy told Jason about me or whatever, And so then when Jason hit me up about it, it started off like way earlier than like it was like May of 2018, and so I didn't tour till November of 2018. But so yeah, or October, whatever it was, but it doesn't matter. So then I talked to Jason throughout the summer. They were on tour of the Breaking Ben one that I ended up joining the second leg of. And long story short, this is a fun for drummers thing now. I was on the phone with Drumeo on a Skype call just like this, and Drumeo is like the big online music education. Like they get in known drummers who then like teach some lessons and do some cool live videos in a really nice studio, and like yeah, it's a big like it's cool if you're a drummer to do it and to have the invite and all of that. So I was on this thing with that, and I saw my phone blowing up next to me, and it was like Jeremy and Zoltan, who I had started talking to by this point. And I was going to go hang out with them the next week in Chicago just to watch the show and hang with the guys. And Jeremy was like, "Hey man, yeah, I need a drummer for the fall, and you're my guy. You want to do it?" So it was pretty much that easy. And then I went down the next week, and instead of just watching the show, I played on stage with them, and then spent like 4 days on the road or something with them to feel each other's vibes and make sure the other dudes were cool with it. And then it was pretty much that simple in terms of then. Yeah, I went home, learned the tunes for 2 months, and got good at like the live show more than the tunes, so that I could jump into the fall tour. And then the fall tour went super well, and so they wanted to keep me around, thank God. And then, yeah, now it's weird because now it feels like I've been in the band for years and years, which it's only been 2 years, but like our relationships together grew really fast, which helped. Because obviously jumping on, like I always refer to it as like a freight train that's already going as fast as I could ever imagine. To just jump into that, there's so many like intangibles and variables that people wouldn't even think of, like myself included at the time, where it's like, I don't even have the gear to do this. I don't have, like I had sponsors and everything and like endorsements, but like this is a really big version of the endorsement. It's not like ship it to my house and then I'll play it for 3 months and never need, you know what I mean? It's like, so there's all these little things you got to deal with in a short time when you're going to pull off a tour like that. But went really well. The fans have been nothing but amazing to me, honestly. I've never taken any grief. And so that was nice in the beginning, especially just because you're just like, I don't want to step into this big operation and be like, hey, you guys want to see what I can do? You know, yeah. So I know my role, and yeah, the guys and I get along great, amazing. Like just seeing them last week, it was so nice to see them because I hadn't seen them in, I don't even know, 7 months or whatever the hell month it is now.
That's so crazy. That's
yeah,
so insane.
Yeah, so it's been great. And that's it. It's all been kind of, smooth sailing since then, as far as like, being accepted into the band and all of that. So yeah, it's been a wild couple of years for my mind.
Living the dream, man. Living the dream. It's different. Well, I know you're like an 80s guy, so you like appreciate the big arena and the big show, but your music background, I bet you could have like never imagined that situation.
No, no way. Because I knew I'd be playing big shows one day in my life just because that's what I strive. But I never thought it would be on this level, right. And then to be doing it with guys that I actually enjoy, which is tough because I came in the odd man out, or not even the odd man out. I was just the new guy, and they could have treated me any way they wanted to, as far as like they didn't have to be friends with me or enjoy my company or anything like that. They could just be like, show up and play the show, and let's keep this machine rolling.
Everyone have their own bus. You don't talk till you get on stage, kind of thing. But no, they're cool.
Yeah, right. You never know how it could go. So, but yeah, it's been great. And they're not that type anyways. It's just I didn't know what they'd be like going into it. And yeah, they couldn't have been cooler to me. And it's been a lot of fun. And I missed the live show so much, it's ridiculous now. Like at first it was kind of like, oh, this would be kind of nice to take a little time off. We've been touring hard. My dog died the day I got home from the Megadeth, like when we Megadeth tour. So like there was changes too for me where it was like, all right, maybe a little breather isn't the worst thing in the world. We'll come back in the fall. We'll rip it up. And then when the fall one got canceled, that's where I was like, all right, this officially sucks. Like you start to feel like you got no purpose anymore. Like your sense of purpose goes out the window, and all of a sudden you're like, I don't want to do housework every day, even though that's benefiting my life. It's just not enjoyable mentally anymore. And so it took a lot of my drive away too from drumming, um, which I thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought I'd start shredding on the drums every day, like I'm going to come out better than I've ever been. And it was like, I don't even want to play. What's the point? I don't want to post another video on the internet. Like I'm so sick of social media posts as it was that it's like the wrong time for COVID for me, because I was already like, maybe if I get a couple posts out a month, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
And now it was like, I'm supposed to be posting and I don't even want to do it. But it's also super down. And how many drum videos do you need to see of me? You can watch them until your eyes bleed anyway. I'll do plenty more, you know?
Yeah, that's actually really funny that you said that, because I feel the exact same way with, doing interviews. It's, for me, my passion, my love for everything. I love doing interviews, but it's all about the live show. It's all about getting to a concert, getting to a show for me. So with everything being canceled, it's really disheartening, and it's really crushes your soul, crushes your spirit a lot, because like the payoff for me is getting to like talk about the experience, but going to the show and just like being in the crowd with everyone else and feeling what your music makes me feel. And I really resonate with exactly what you said a lot, because I feel the exact same way. It's, I'm very happy to be doing this, and it's such a good opportunity to like spend a lot of time on it. But yeah, it really breaks your heart at the same time, not being able to get the payoff for all of the hard work for it.
Yeah,
the payoff is going to the show.
Yeah, that's the fun part. Everything else is work around it. The show is when I'd be like jacked up and ready to rock. So
yeah, the show is when I get to like dress up and like wear heels and drink beers, and well, not around Five Finger, of course. It's sober around Five Finger, but like way far away from the camp,
Yeah,
have drinks, the show. That's what I enjoy,
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a blast, and that's, I think, also the goofy thing with this feeling right now is everything just keeps getting delayed, and there's no rhyme or reason to any cancellations. And so like I see fans in Kansas City the other day in their stadium, and yeah, it's like limited fans, but it's still a large amount of people.
Yeah.
So then why can't we play that, or why is the entertainment world getting so controlled that you can go to Home Depot every day and there's however many thousand people walking through those stores throughout the day. And there's some imbalances in the whole approach. And to see the whole entertainment industry get crushed intentionally with like no room for operation is just a little bizarre to me. And I feel like it's a way to keep people's focus on the doom and gloom of everyday shit life that currently exists as far as they want it to be concerned, There's no happiness that they're portraying that we're looking forward to or anything. They just keep driving home that the world's in a blaze, both metaphorically and literally. And then, you got fires, you got an election, you hate the president, or it's just like, oh my God, okay, yeah, but no shows, so no fun. So you got to think about.
Yeah, no fun. Well, it's weird. So there's one venue here in Austin, Come and Take It Live, and
I played there.
Yeah, so they've had some shows. So
Yeah.
My friend, actually, he does, his name's Eric. He does pyro for Disturbed and Kiss and a bunch of all these people. And he's in this band called Slaterica, and they're good. They're very, very, very good. And Come and Take It Live, they've actually been having some shows, and I looked up their concert list last night, and it looks like they're going to have some. But I've been to, like, Come and Take It Live, and they've had some shows. So I don't know if they still are. They're canceled. Or if they're canceled, but I was at, like, a live show. A lot of people, and they had, like, a bike rally there, too. So there was, like, 200 people at Come and Take It Live. So that's kind of cool. I feel we're probably cheating, the rest of the country. But there's, like, one venue in Austin, Texas. They're, like, actually doing some things. I don't know if they still are, because I looked at the calendar. And, like, some were postponed, some were marked uncanceled. Some are, still playing. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, comedians are doing a few random shows now. And, some of the smaller are able to play, which is a good start. I mean, at this point, it just feels like I don't even know what's happening anymore, because they could just be lying about everything for all I know. It's too hard to keep up with it. Everything's just a blurry mess, So whatever. In the meantime, we sit back and kind of
do podcasts,
really, I think, more than
do
anything,
lives and do social media. Yeah.
Just prepare to come out coming out hard. Like I'd never take a live show for granted again. That's for sure. If I ever did before, I was never that type. Really, like every show I enjoyed, I played because I never wanted somebody to come see a show and then be like, "That was great," but yeah, he seemed like he was having an off day, even if my playing was good, but my energy sucked. So like, I've never played a show and been like, "I'm gonna just ride this one out, get it over with," you know. Except for one time when I was like dealing with some weird ass like muscle pain in my chest, and it was like a blur. But
Yeah.
I never really took shows for granted, but whatever I thought I didn't take for granted before, it's even going to be more so. Like, all right, enjoy this as if it's your last show, because for God's sakes, it could be.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember seeing, and I don't even mind saying it, but I do remember seeing an Avenged Sevenfold show one time, and I forget, it was like one of the guitar players or bass players, and I was like right in front of him, and the entire time he was just phoning it in and like so annoyed that he was there and not home, and you could just like read PlayStation on his face, and I was like, ugh. It just like really, I hated that, and I was just right smack dab in front of him, and he couldn't have cared less. So it's good that you don't do that. So good for you. I like that.
It's an energy thing, you know. You got to give the energy to receive it, type of an effect. And if you phone it in, it's one thing to be mentally phoned in. That's all right, but you still got to bring it to the table physically and pretend, even if you're, you know.
Pretend for me. I showed up. I was there. I fought my way to the barricade. Like, I was on the front row.
Yeah, and once you pretend, it's real. Just like placebo effect, you can call it a placebo effect and that it's not real, but once it works, you know. So it's that effect that I've always tried to act like and portray to the audience. So I think I've been good about that. And drumming, you know, you better get fired up for it because it doesn't care.
It's very overhead. It's very like, it's not underhanded. It's very overhead, especially Five Finger for sure. Does Five Finger have anything like really fun on the rider? That's like 66 blue M&Ms or anything like that. Is there anything funny on there?
Oh, I don't think so. I heard Tommy Lee get asked this question the other day on one of some podcast I was listening to, and he didn't have anything funny either. I think there's definitely nothing funny in that way of like, yeah, some goofy ass specific thing or something weird. No, ours is like super healthy. Like we have the most healthy rider I bet in all of rock music. That's for sure. I'm sure there's other bands who do the same thing, but yeah, it's all like, you know, vegan everything and like all an organic, natural, like you know, like all my stuff's like organic. Like my rider's kombucha, pressed juice, like cashews, you know, like hummus and pretzels. That's about it. But it's like fruit tray.
There you go.
But
those are like all the things I buy. I have a health food grocery store across the street from where I live. So I walk across the street. There's a Starbucks, and then there's a foot spa massage place, and then there's the health food store. So it's like it's a nice little routine.
Yeah, it's a routine. That's we like the routines in Death Punch as well. We don't like our routines broken. I think I can speak for every one of us when I say that. We especially on tour, we enjoy our like daily cycle, and when it gets thrown off, you can tell.
There you go. So I want to know, I love old Five Finger. I love new Five Finger. What are some of your old Five Finger Death Punch tracks, and what are your favorite ones to play?
Yeah, those are pretty easy, I'd say. I like Coming Down to play. I like Lift Me Up and Under and Over It.
Ooh, Under and Over It. I forgot about that song. I'm
under
over it.
We always
hell yeah.
Start or end with that one usually, or we did. Not like fully end, but before the encore. And that's a good one on either front edge of that, you know, end or starter. That one I'd say I get the most like heavy hitting with for some reason. Like there's been times where it's at the end of the show, kind of before the Actually, I think I'm lying. We've even done it in the encore, so whatever. It's always towards the end of the show. And there's been times where I'd hit so hard and I'd already been so tired because my drum solo's in Burn usually, or like right before it. So that's another favorite to play is Burn too, and the fire and laser section, and that is sweet from my angle.
Yeah.
But that drum solo being that late in the set, it crushes me. And Burn is not the easiest song anyway. So to put them both together, I come out of that pretty tired but fired up. And so yeah, Under and Over It a few times I've been like, okay, hold back just a hair. Like I could feel my vision get a little cloudy. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
those, and then there's been a few that we've been playing lately that I really enjoy. What are some of the ones we added? See, I have a thing where there's been about 5 or 6 tunes with Death Punch I've played, and I didn't play them until we were on the stage in front of people. Like we didn't
Oh,
rehearse them.
wow.
So there's been a few that took over. Like Got Your Six is always a fun one. Burn It Down, that was the one I really enjoyed from the last tour. We threw that in there, and Burn It Down's a good one. You can let loose a little bit, and I can get away with like
Yeah, I
heck of
know
your
about Burn It Down. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I play that one a little extra. I
Yeah.
usually keep the songs to them like the originals, so that the
Mhm.
fans can sing the fills if they know them, or at least close to it. But I throw in some of my own little ones in that one, which makes it a little fun because it's fast too.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are some of my favorites. Battleborn too. I like the original, like listening to it. We play a half acoustic version, which is cool too in the set. But I like the original on the record.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
really
those are.
like it when Jason brings out his guitar and does the acoustic with Ivan. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, that's always everybody loves that, especially if you've
Mhm.
never seen the show before. It's always good.
Yeah. Yeah, and you wouldn't expect it from like a Death Punch show. You're like, "What?"
Right?
Yeah, even like hearing you say the song titles. I miss shows so much, especially when you're like under and over it and burn it down. Miss that so much.
Tough.
Um,
I know. I've honestly never felt this way when it comes to live music as I have the last probably 3 months because it
mhm.
started months ago, and I was like, "There's no way in hell our tour is happening because they're not going to let us."
Yeah.
It's going to play so many arenas I've never played before that I've been looking forward to, like the Forum in LA, Red Rocks, a bunch of hockey arenas because I'm a huge hockey guy. So I
Mhm.
was going to cross off like I don't even know, at least 7 or 8. The Excel in my home state here, the Wild rink. Um, so yeah, that was another disappointment alone, is just seeing some of these places I wanted to see from the other side of it.
Yeah, right. From the production side of it and Red Rocks, I hope it's still there after all this. Like, save our stages, you know, bail out the industry, that's never gotten a bailout before ever. And this, you're bailing everyone else out. Make sure you save our stages. Like, could you imagine like Red Rocks not even being there? Like, just all the legendary places to play. It's really insane to think
I
about.
don't think us musicians would let that one specifically happen, but we're going to lose a lot. I would imagine because we're going
Yeah.
to lose a lot. We're going to lose a lot of the industry in general. There's going to be a
Hmm.
lot of bands that disappear after this. There's just no way that they could prevail through all of this. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
just impossible.
Yeah. Oh, I know like a really big musician and they just put out an album and one of the members is like getting his real estate license right now. And they're like a big band and he's like taking time. He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go into real estate now." It's like, "Okay." Yeah.
Yep. It's a travesty on an epic level, and yeah, you don't even need, I don't even have to say anything, and you know my position on it all. So,
Yep, exactly. Okay, so last two questions. I want to know best compliment you've ever gotten from another musician, your peer, and best compliment you've ever gotten from a fan.
that's a tough one. Well, the fan ones are easier because it's a lot of the same ones, but they're all still meaningful. Of like,
Hmm.
like the best drummer, even if it's not even meaning I'm the best drummer, but just like they appreciate my drumming so much, it makes them say that.
It's the way that you made them feel.
Yeah. So those never go unheard. Like everybody likes to hear that, and that's more
Hmm.
important to me than like coming up with some crazy ass drum groove that nobody else could ever play if they tried. It We could all of us drummers who are proficient at the instrument could do that to each other all day. So that's irrelevant. But to become part of something that's so big, it's way beyond what you could ever do personally. Is always been my goal. So I've achieved that enough now to like it never gets old hearing it. And then from up here, there's actually been a ton just because anytime they say anything that's like super complimentary, but also like you can tell it's a next level. All right, I got a good one that just popped into my head. Uh, so there's a drum shop down in Memphis, Tennessee called, now I have to think of it because I did it. It's mysymbol.com is what I did all the things for. Memphis Drum Shop. And so Jim, the owner, Jim came up to me and he's been in the industry forever and he gets all these insane drummers all the time to come do mysymbol.com, which is like another honor thing and all of this. And this is before Death Punch. And he goes, "Hey, like, yeah, what I really liked about your playing was you're a lot like a Dave Weckl mixed with, like, I forget who else he said, but I just remember he said Dave Weckl, and really what he was saying was like you're kind of like a fusion guy that like has a more metal voice, but it's like your phrasing is really like creative and unique. And so the fact that he was able to kind of like decipher my style the way I would try to describe myself, it was nice to hear, just because it was like, oh, see, he looks through the like, wow, that was really crazy, or not that Jim would say that, but just somebody else would say like, yeah, you're so crazy. That's always the thing. You're like, it's not intended to be crazy because I'm like I need to be crazy for people. It's just what comes out of me. It's just the way it's in my. So
it's
yeah,
like they see you how you see yourself, and you appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly. Because he looked through the craziness. He didn't really care that it was crazy. He saw my phrasing and it being coming from the other angle of like, I'm not out there just playing fast because I want to play fast and be like impressive physically. That's just the way I am. If you know me as a person too, everything I do is kind of like I'm very like hyper focusy type of a person. So yeah, that was probably the best when it comes to peers. But I've had so many like drummers I looked up to give me compliments that it was amazing. So yeah, I could go down the list of them. Marco Miniman had a nice compliment for me recently that I was like, oh, I felt like a kid again. Thomas Lang, who I love, like some of those guys. Mario from Gojira, any of those dudes give me high praises. Eloy Casagrande, who's one of my favorite drummers of like the modern era. He plays for Sepultura now, and I consider him the best metal drummer by a landslide. And he always says nice things to me. So yeah, those guys, it's always fun hearing it from your friends,
So you've done well in life. So you've done good. So you're
Yeah.
happy with where you're at. That's great.
I'm happy with what I accomplished behind a drum set. Yes, I have more to go, but I can die content if I had to. But I would be I'd be bummed if I didn't accomplish a few more things.
There you go. So what's left to accomplish?
I think at this point it's going to be a solo record of some sort, but I wouldn't really call it a solo record. I think it's going to come out in chunks, in tunes, and like. I don't really know, but I'm into like electronic, like synthwave stuff, and I've always wanted to do like a drum album that is essentially my Instagram drumming stuff, like the more just creative kind of out there, whatever you want to call it, drumming, but with like a cool background that actually gives it the vibe I was trying to portray when I played the groove initially, that effect.
Yeah.
So I'll probably start to focus on doing more complete ideas. That's a better way to put it. And then, other than that, just get back out to the live shows. I'm gonna take that serious, and I'm gonna start hitting the weights hard again, and just kind of start to fall into a routine. I think I've ignored routines because I've had the ability to just do this housework and all the random stuff, and now it's time to get back to being serious when it comes to like working out, and then that includes drumming, and they kind of go hand in hand. So yeah, it's time to become a little bit better again at drums.
That's funny.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Anything else you want to say? That was pretty much nailed on the head. Routine, workout, and drums, and lift weights, lift heavy things, and hit hard, right? Exactly, and hit the woods as usual. But is that you're the first drummer I've ever interviewed? I think in like 10 years. So is that what us drummers say? We say hit the woods. I meant hit the real woods and go camping and fishing and hunting. Oh. There you go. Perfect. You hit the woods too. These are wood. Oh my God.